Sisveta led the alien to the medical bay. It gasped as it saw the chief medical officer, Klarood.
Greetings and warm rocks to you, Captain Sisveta. Is this the alien that has caused so much activity today?
Sisveta?
Mira asked.
Is that how you say your name?
Ah, you understood it. It makes sense. Klarood's language has sounds that more resemble your language than mine. Try telling him you're called differently. All of his language has long been translated.
Mira nodded and turned to this new alien. He was very strange-looking. He resembled an alligator if they had human-length arms and legs. His snout was much shorter and his skin was orange. Instead of the spin ridge of an alligator, he had a short purple mohawk that went all the way down his tail.
My name is Mira Rodriguez, but you can call me Mira. Mira Rodriguez, or Mira for familiarity. It is pleasant to meet you.
Mira looked over at Sisveta, who was grinning.
It is also pleasant to meet you, Mira Rodriguez. I must return to the controls. I will return a little later. Our chief medical officer will have many questions for you so that we can learn about you.
He left, and the medical bay door closed behind him. Klarood ran many scans on Mira, as well as her food, and asked many questions, some of which were embarrassing. However, he also offered the same kind of information about himself and Sisveta. They spoke of her understanding of science, and he filled in some gaps. He asked her where her planet was and showed her where they had picked her up from.
That one there.
She pointed out when he had found her solar system.
We call it Earth.
Are you sure?
He was looking at Mira dubiously.
Of course.
She zoomed in on the land masses.
This is the country I'm from. It's called the United States of America, or USA for short.
That's a Class Black planet. The temperatures change too frequently, and most of what grows there is poisonous.
Poisonous? What exactly is poisonous to you?
Here, I have pictures.
He showed her pictures of grass trees and flowers.
Sure, some of those are poisonous to me too, but only if I tried to eat it.
She moved over to a picture of foxglove.
This is both medicine and poison. If I had a heart problem, a medicine that comes from this plant would keep me alive, but to eat even a small amount of this plant would kill me too.
I'm not speaking of eating. I am speaking of touching. To break a stem of any of these and have it touch my skin, I would get itch bumps, and if I continue, my lungs would cease functioning.
It kind of sounds like an extreme allergy. I get that way with cats, but not to that extreme. At least not for a long time. I usually start with sneezing first.
After scanning her food and water, he let her know that her food was poisonous to the crew, but the water was good for the most part. Small amounts would be okay, but there were trace amounts of plant material in it, which would become lethal over time.
I'm sorry, Mira, but we cannot replicate your food. However, from the scans I have taken of you, it appears that you should have little problem with our food or hydration liquids. It is very strange how resilient your species is, but you don't appear to have any defensive evolutions. For example, skeeks like Sisveta have a venomous bite. They do not have teeth or fangs, but their mouth ridge is sharp all the way to the back of their mouths. My species, Juten, can stiffen and shoot our fur ridge at will. But you humans have no claws, no venom. Your physical strength is on the lower end of the scale. However, your endurance is among the highest, if not the highest of all species. How is this possible?
During the course of their conversation, she had learned that while most species were herbivores in nature, there were carnivores, and even a few omnivores. The fact that humans ate meat was not a terrifying concept for Klarood. In fact, his species was completely carnivorous. This was a relief because talking about predation tactics as she was about to do wouldn't alienate these new species from her. His species and all of the other meat-eating species they had encountered so far used ambush and trap predation in their ancestral pasts and had since moved to herds and even more recently to replication so that they no longer had to kill to eat.
Do you understand the term pursuit predator?
Mira asked.
I understand those separately. Please explain how you mean them.
Early in human history, we were nomads that rarely settled and planted crops. Typically, societies were hunters and gatherers. So, as a herd of animals migrated from colder temperatures to warmer ones, our ancient ancestors followed them. Many of those animals were much stronger and bigger than us, so we would pursue, wait until they settled for the night, and cause them to exhaust themselves before engaging them. This is called pursuit predation. We may not be faster, but we can run off of less nutrients and sleep than many other stronger animals on Earth.
Klarood nodded in understanding.
We also learned how to make tools and weapons early on.
That makes sense. There are other species that have your nutritional needs, and they also are in your range of stamina. However, they are much stronger and taller than you. Your people are an anomaly, Mira.
He paused and took a breath so he could change the subject.
Now that I understand where you are from, and you have told me of your mission, where is this Alpha Centauri at? We may be able to give you better information than you would be able to collect on that ancient-style craft.
She showed him on the star map.
You must not go there.
Why, Klarood? What's wrong with that star system?
The species that live there are slavers, Mira. And what they feel they cannot sell, they eat. I am very sorry your crew is dead, but I am also glad it happened so that your ship put out its distress signal, and we could come upon you and your ship.
Mira was confused because they did not send out a distress signal.
What is strange is that your planet is not too far from them. How is it that the Imperia has not discovered your people?
Two things. First, we didn't put out a distress signal.
Klarood interrupted.
All ships do when life support is compromised. Your people were copying what they saw when they built your ship. They may not have realized that the thing they copied had such a purpose. What is your other thing?
The knowledge that they may have copied tech without understanding other uses made Mira sit down heavily. She was worried as she whispered,
What if they did know?
Klarood was worried at the sudden change in Mira's disposition.
What do you mean?
Can you show me what they look like first?
Klarood nodded and brought up images of them. Mira gasped.
Greys.
Have you seen them before?
No, but my ship, as you know, was designed based on old alien wrecks, and there are stories of alien abductions and experimentations. Other people just think they're crazy or drunk too much. They aren't believed. But people have drawn images of what the aliens that abducted them looked like, and many look just like that.
Mira was beginning to panic, so Klarood had her lie down while he called Sveta to come back. Sveta had watched the interactions he had with Mira that he had recorded. He had been surprised that Mira had not told her superior of himself or his ship. He wondered why. First contact tends to be a joyous thing for new species, to know you are not alone. But Mira had not acted like that. She was more afraid at first. He had turned the ship to head back towards Federation space and was still contemplating the recording when Klarood messaged him that he was needed back at medical. Sveta entered the medical bay and sampled the air. Mira was distressed and Klarood was concerned and anxious.
What worries you, Klarood?
It is Mira, Captain. She was headed to Imperia territory. She said it was their closest star system neighbor. Even worse is when I showed her images of Imperians. She recognized them.
Show her images of Vasily and Lakshi.
Sveta suggested.
Mira, come and look at these images. Do any look familiar?
He held out his hand to her, and she took it. He guided her back to the main viewing screen. Mira pointed to the Vasily.
I think I've seen drawings of this one. People call them lizard men, or even reptilians. I don't recognize the other one at all.
This is troubling.
Sveta replied.
These three races work together in the slave trade. There are three main groups that races belong to politically. The Galactic Federation, which we belong to, believes in peace, unity, and moving everyone towards a galaxy where everyone can be healthy, fed, and educated. The neutrals believe more in a my needs are more important than yours mentality. They are not evil, but do not renounce evil things such as slavery. In fact, they have many that enjoy having slaves. This is more individuals than full species that do this. They do not go out and make races slaves, and even have enslaved their own people in some cases. but they do turn blind eyes to the act. Do you understand?
Yes. My own people went through having and then later outlawing slavery.
Knowing it was outlawed is good to know. It means that perhaps your people would be more likely to join us. The last group only has these 3 races. They are extremely violent and feed the darker impulses of the neutrals.
I don't know, Sisveta.
Captain,
Klarood interrupted.
he is our captain, and should be addressed as such.
He explained gently.
It is fine for now, Chief Medical Officer, Klarood. We are alone and this alien has had many shocks this day. We can be informal in such privacy. You yourself have only called her Mira. Have you even asked her rank upon her ship?
Sisveta chided. Sisveta tasted Klarood's embarrassment, so turned back to Mira.
Continue.
Mira rubbed her face and finally crossed one arm, rested her opposite elbow on it, and held her face, covering her eyes with that hand. Her emotions tasted strange that she had so many at once. Fear, resignation, trepidation, hopelessness, stressed. There were more, but he couldn't separate them. She finally spoke.
Humans have a lot of darker impulses.
She whispered.
What if they have helped to push those? What if some of the things we've done to each other was because of them? We have a lot of empathy. We really do. We care about things we probably shouldn't, but we can't help it. It's how we are wired. But we have so much capacity for harm.
It was like watching a puppet with its strings cut, as Mira dropped down, as though all the energy to hold her standing had left her. Klarood and Sisveta shared a glance of worry before Klarood lifted the smaller Mira and set her back onto a medical bed. He moved away, and Sisveta pulled up a chair so he could look at Mira at a more even level instead of looking down upon her.
I have notified the Galactic Federation Council of you, and they wish to meet you. Hopefully, they will help come to a decision on what to do with your planet. As you may have guessed, either your people know about the aliens on their planet and have agreements with them, or they do not. You know your government leaders best. What do you think?